Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So today we're taking a look at a Ogryn shovel build. Shut up, Stephanie. Mostly because Ugg was asking for one on the last live stream, so we've cobbled one together. And it's quite fun, to be honest. And I thought I'd take this moment as well to say that when you're looking online and people say, oh, this is the meta for the Ogryn, or this, or this, or this, most Ogryn weapons are completely viable. Any one of them in the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing can be meta. So don't get brought down by other people saying, well, you can't use it because it's not meta. All of them are, apart from the Palmer, which kind of still sucks, but that's a Fat Shark problem, not us. So the Bully Club, the Latrine Shovel, Cleaver, Slab Shield, and the pickaxes are all perfectly viable for Auric Damnation. Don't get yourself all worked up about it, okay? Because a lot of people say, oh, you can't use this, you can't use that. You can. Just, practice with it. Learn how to get the best out of it. Anyway, the shovel build. So, we are using the Brute Brainer Mark V. And I will explain why we're using this variant instead of the super heavy variant. First of all, we'll go through the stats. So, Latrine Shovel. We're going with damage, crowd control, first target, and penetration, lol, as our main modifiers, and our dump is going to be defense, as always, because screw defense, the best defense is a good offense. As for our perks, we're going with Carapace and Flak, because this is going to help us really get the most out of the special on the shovel. And then for the blessings, I would say both are quite non-negotiable, to be honest, on this. Thrust, which is going to buff the special on this to crazy degrees, and Brutal Momentum, because this is going to allow us to use that special and kill multiple Crushers or Maulers at the same time of it, because of how Brutal Momentum works. Because of the ignoring enemy hit mass, that one strike is going to turn into many. So, what is this special you're talking about, Zug? Well, good question. I'll show you. So, with this shovel, your normal heavy attacks, pretty wide sweeps, very good for hordes, but as you can see, hasn't done much to the Crusher. That's where we get the special. For me, it's mouse button 4. Just check your options and see which one it is for you. And suddenly, the shovel is now a pick. You hold for those 3 stacks of thrust, and down goes the Crusher. And this works on all big targets. As you can see, shut up, Stephanie. It takes them out pretty damn easily. All you've got to remember is hard targets, use the special. Not so hard targets, you can just swing. So, that is the shovel for you. It's a very good weapon. It just requires a little bit of fiddling when you're dealing with different types of enemies. So, as I said, hard targets, turn it into a pick. Normal targets, just keep swinging. So, next up, we're taking the Grenade Gauntlet. And we're taking this because it's basically the big friendly rock in gun form that we can reload. And it's a very, very handy weapon, especially when we need to try and snipe out trappers, bombers, everything of that kind of ilk. The explosion radius isn't as big as the Rumbler, but we do get much more accuracy, and the sort of hit damage is a lot more, which allows us to, as I said, turn it into a big friendly rock and snipe out specials where we need to. And also, don't forget, on the Grenade Gauntlet, it does double as a melee weapon if you're ever caught short. And of course, it does stack up heavy hitter if you use the heavy attack on it. And it's not too shabby at doing that. And of course, there is the special on the grenade gauntlet, which is very handy for just melting mixed hordes. Say, mixed horde of specials, trash, and rages. And the special hit gets rid of them pretty damn easily. So where's the unarmoured ones? So this is a very versatile build. Each weapon is quite good at doing a whole host of things, which is what you want, really. You don't want to be pigeonholed too much. So, for the modifiers, there is one mistake in this, and I will say that now. You want to switch melee damage with ammo. I still haven't bothered to remake mine, but switch those two, and then everything else, blast damage, blast radius, and penetration, lol, blast, you'll want 80, and ammo 80. As for the perks, you want Maniac and Flak, because that's mostly what this weapon is going to be dealing with. You want Maniac so you can snipe out trappers and snipers and all sorts, and Flak so you can deal with Ragers and just all the other sort of prevalent armor type of Flak in the game. So for blessings, we are going for pinpointing target, which gives us 8% strength every 0.4 seconds while aiming. Stacks 5 times, discharge all stacks upon firing. Then explosive offensive, 15% strength bonus for 5 seconds after hitting multiple enemies with your weapon's special explosion, which is what I just showed you. It's this. It's not proccing very well in here, but it procs when you hit, as it says, multiple enemies with it. There you go. So it procs there. And after that, you get quite a big strength increase. So again, very good for dealing with those mixed hordes. As for the Curios, it's my usual setup for the Ogryn. We've got 2 toughness Curios with extra toughness, damage-resistant snipers and damage-resistant gunners, and 1 max health Curio with max health, toughness, and damage-resistant gunners. I tend not to run all 3 of one, because toughness is very, very useful. Please do ignore Reddit. They don't understand how toughness works. But we still want a nice spike of health, because toughness will get shredded off of you. So with this, we just have a little bit more defense. So that's generally the gear we're using. Let's jump in and take a look at the talents. So we're starting off with Furious. For each enemy you hit during the same heavy melee attack, gain 2.5% damage on your next melee attack. And then we're taking the best defense, replenish 20% toughness after hitting multiple enemies with a single heavy melee attack. Toughness boost. And then we're grabbing Smash 'em, replenish 20% toughness after hitting a single enemy with a heavy melee attack. Heavyweight, the best talent in the tree, plus 30% damage against Bulwarks, Crushers, Plague Ogrins, and Reapers, also receive plus 30% damage reduction against the same. If anyone ever tells you not to take this, they are wrong. Linchpin, toughness replenishment while in coherency is increased by 50%. Toughness boost, and then we're taking the Frag Bomb, my most favourite of all of the Ogryn Blitz abilities. Closely followed by the Big Friendly Rock, but as I said, we have a Big Friendly Rock launcher. So, what does the Frag Bomb do? Well, exactly what it says on the tin. It's a bomb. And this is your wave clear. If something is going horribly wrong in the run, this is basically your get out of jail free card. If your team is being overwhelmed, or if you're the last survivor and you're trying to clutch, this is going to give you a massive amount of breathing room. It's got a very big range, and it does a lot of damage. The only downside is you only can carry one at a time. But it is a lovely, lovely, lovely little blitz ability. So, next up, we're taking Soften Them Up. Enemies damaged by you take 15% more damage for 5 seconds. Into Toughness damage reduction. Into Indomitable. Charge forward with great force, knocking back enemies and staggering them. Gain plus 25% attack speed and plus 25% movement speed for 5 seconds. Charge is stopped on collision with a monstrosity. And as always, this is partially right, but you can also stop yourself. Say you want to hit that Crusher, use your ability, and then hit the back key, which is S. I assume it works the same on console if you just tap back on whatever thumbstick it's on. So if you need to stop, or you're aiming for a specific target, that's how you do it. And next up, we're taking Stomping Boots, replenish 10% toughness per enemy hit with Indomitable. And then we're taking Pulverize, apply 5 stacks of bleed on enemies hit by Indomitable. This is going to pair up really nicely with Batter and Delight Destruction. I'm starting to move away from taking Trample these days because it is a bit overkill. That 50% increased damage for 8 seconds is slightly less useful than just being able to instantly get a defensive spike. But it is totally personal preference. There you go. So, whichever you prefer, I suggest Pulverize for this. Right, next up, we're taking the Rending boost with plus 5% Rending. As I said before, Rending does kind of work out to 1% Rending equals 1% damage. Kind of. And then we're going to be taking Batter, inflict plus 4 stacks of bleed on heavy melee hit. As I said, this pairs up really nicely with Delight and Destruction. And we're also taking Crunch. Now, I don't usually take Crunch because it leaves you open. It requires you to hold that heavy attack for a very long time. But it does pair up really nicely with the special attack on the shovel. So, at this point, I think it's worth taking it. So, Crunch gives us plus 40% damage bonus and plus 40% impact bonus on your fully charged melee attack. And it also does give us a big pile of stagger. And of course, Batter. And then into the heavy melee damage boost for 10% damage down here. Then Bonebreaker's Aura for another 10% heavy melee damage boost to you and your allies in coherency. Into another melee damage boost here. Then we're picking up a toughness boost, and then we're going into Attention Seeker and Payback Time. Now, again, this can be personal preference. So if you don't like these, you can take Get Stuck In and Bruiser. But I tend to swap between them almost match to match. But they're both really good. So Attention Seeker allows you to blocking or pushing enemies taunts them. So this is a very good way to help control the fight. And of course, Payback Time gives you plus 20% damage for 5 seconds after being hit by a melee attack. You're going to get hit a lot, so this is going to be up a lot of the time, and this is quite a big damage increase for you. But the other two are more... they're proactive, shall I say. On activating your combat ability, you and your allies in coherency gain 20% movement speed, and are also immune to stun and suppression. And then Bruiser gives you 4% combat ability cooldown reduction when you or an ally in coherency kill an elite enemy. So this just allows you to use your ability more, and this just makes your abilities kind of help your team. Whereas this allows control and damage. Right. Delight and Destruction, as we've touched on before, plus 8% damage resistance per bleeding enemy in melee range, stacked 6 times. Then into Dominate, plus 10% rending for 10 seconds on elite kill. This is just a good way of getting more damage in mixed hordes, and also we have to go through this node anyway. Toughness damage reduction for a 10% toughness reduction. Into Implacable, plus 15% damage reduction while charging at melee attacks. Into Heavy Melee Damage Boost for 5%. Into Heavy Hitter, plus 5% damage for 7.5% seconds on heavy attack hit, stacks 5 times. And then we're grabbing Just Getting Started while Heavy Hitter is active at 5 stacks, gain 10% attack speed. And then Brutish Momentum, Heavy Hitter duration is refreshed with light attacks. Now, you can switch out Brutish Momentum for Unstoppable if you want more defense, but with the shovel, Brutish Momentum is quite useful because we are going to take advantage of all 3 types of attacks with this weapon. So that's the special, the heavy, and the light. Now, all the heavy attacks are big wide sweeps, mostly aiming at about head height, so that's going to help us trigger brutal momentum. But then your light attacks can turn into sort of single target to really help get rid of whatever's in front of you, if that's what you want. So, let's talk about the marks. So, if you look between the Mark 5 and the Mark 14 or the 19, whatever the hell it is, I can't read your numerals anymore. So this one, it does do more heavy attack damage. But this is going to specialize us a little bit too much. So for killing carapace and whatnot, it's going to be absolutely amazing. But the heavy attacks are all very, very single target centric. As you can see there, with brutal momentum, that does kind of fix the problem slightly. But it does make us a lot weaker in horde situations because we don't really have that sweep just to clear them off the board. Now the light attacks are a bit more wild on this, which is also why I've taken brutish momentum so that light attacks refresh the duration on heavy hitter. So that does negate the problem slightly. But I do think that the Mark 5 is more fitting for the build. But again, if you do want to use the Mark 19, it does work. It's just a little bit more awkward to use than the Mark 5. Both are completely viable. The old school latrine shovel now, the Mark 3, is a little bit more difficult this build because you don't get the special. Your special is a little slap to the face. But the heavy attack is quite good. But as you can see, you're not really one-shotting with this. That even with thrust and crunch up, you're not really getting as much damage out as you would with the others. But for an all-purpose horde clear, it's a very respectable weapon. You are just taking a hit to your ability to one-shot crushers and maulers. But if that's not a problem for you, then the Mark III is completely viable. But in my humble opinion, the Mark 5 is the go-to, but the Mark 19 is very usable as well. And don't forget your big friendly rock launcher, which is mostly going to be used to snipe out elites and specials when you need to. And it is quite funny using the special on it. I pull this out to deal with mixed hordes because it's hilarious. There you go, folks. The Shovel Ogryn. I do hope you enjoy the build, and if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.